What if intelligent life exists somewhere else in the universe? And what if they've been watching us? Well, not literally watching, but you know what I mean. They're aware that we're here. And I wonder if they've made a profound mistake. They've probably looked at our species and said, yeah, they're not interesting. Look at them. They're still figuring out basic stuff. But here's the thing that fascinates me. In the last 10,000 years, humans went from sleeping under the stars following herds of animals to building civilizations, writing poetry, creating mathematics, and launching rockets. And an alien observer, looking at our history on a long enough timeline, might have completely missed this explosion. They might have said, nope, nothing to see here. Let me explain why this is so peculiar by going back in time a bit. And I mean really back in time. Our species, Homo sapiens, has been around for somewhere around 200,000 years. Now that's a long time. You can barely imagine 200,000 years. But here's what's remarkable. For about 190,000 of those years, we didn't do much of anything remarkable at all. We hunted. We gathered. We made tools out of stone. We developed language, sure. We had art. We had music. We had spiritual beliefs. We had all these fascinating things. But structurally, our lives didn't change very much. A human being 100,000 years ago lived essentially the same way as a human being 10,000 years ago. Same basic structure. Hunt, gather, follow the herds, make a camp, move on. It's what we call the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, and it sustained our species beautifully, by the way. We had plenty of food. Most hunter-gatherers worked maybe 2 or 3 days a week to get all the food they needed. They weren't starving. They weren't working themselves to death. Then something happened, and it happened not because of some grand plan, but because of something much simpler, climate change. And I don't mean the modern kind. I mean the real, geological kind. About 14,000 years ago, we finished the last ice age. The Earth warmed up, glaciers melted, and this created this interesting situation, especially in this place we now call the Fertile Crescent. It's in the Middle East, stretched across what's now Iraq, Syria, Israel, and those regions. Wild grains started growing everywhere. There was so much food just lying around: wheat, barley, peas. And wild animals were plentiful. For a hunter-gatherer, this was paradise. It was like someone just put a feast in front of you every single day. Now, you'd think this would have made life easier, right? And it did for a while. The population grew. People could stay in one place longer because there was so much to eat. Bands of humans became bigger. And here's where it gets interesting. And this is the part that an alien observer would probably get wrong. Population growth created a problem. You see, no matter how abundant wild grains are, there's a limit. You can't feed 10 times as many people with the same amount of wild food. Something's got to give. And so someone, we don't know who, but someone had an idea. What if we planted these seeds ourselves? What if we grew our own food instead of just finding it? Now, I want you to understand something important about this moment. Agriculture did not make life easier. Let me say that again. Agriculture did not make life easier, at least not immediately. In fact, it made life much, much harder. Farming is exhausting work. You have to prepare the soil. You have to plant seeds. You have to watch over the crops for months. You have to weed. You have to harvest. You have to process the grain. You have to store it. And you have to do this every single year. A hunter-gatherer didn't have to do any of that. They just walked out, found food, came back. And if the food ran out, they moved somewhere else. But once you start farming, you're committed. You can't just leave. Your food is tied to that piece of land. So why did they do it? Why did anyone switch to this obviously harder lifestyle? Well, here's the thing. By that point, the population had already grown so much that you couldn't go back. You couldn't feed all these people by just hunting and gathering anymore. The land couldn't support it. So they didn't really have a choice. They had to farm to survive. It's like they backed themselves into a corner. And once you back yourself into a corner, the only way out is forward. And let me tell you what this corner looked like. When people switched to agriculture, their health actually got worse. We know this because we can look at bones. We can measure them. Before agriculture, the average height of a man was about 175 centimeters. That's about 5'9". After agriculture took over, by 3000 BC, the average height had dropped to about 160 centimeters. That's 5'3". People got shorter because they were malnourished. When you eat a diverse diet of hunted meat, gathered plants, and seasonal foods, you get a lot of nutrients. But when you eat mostly wheat or rice or maize, when your diet is dominated by one or two crops, you miss out on a lot of important stuff. You get weaker. You get sicker. Infant mortality went up. Disease spread because you were living in close quarters with lots of people and their animals. Your teeth got worse. We can see this in the fossil record. These are not my opinions. These are physical facts written in bones. But at the same time, something else happened. Because agriculture allowed you to stay in one place, people could specialize. Before, everyone was a hunter-gatherer. You had to do everything: hunt, gather, make tools, make clothes, build shelters. But once you settled down, you could say, you know what? I'm going to be the person who makes pottery. And you can farm. And you can take care of animals. This specialization created a positive feedback loop. Some people became better at making tools, so the tools improved. Better tools made farming more efficient. More efficient farming produced more food. More food meant more people could specialize. More people specializing meant more innovation. And suddenly, you've got this system where things are getting better and better. And here's where it really gets going. About 5,000 years ago, people figured out how to use metal, copper, bronze, iron. Metals are better for making tools. You can make a better plow with bronze than you can with wood. And a better plow means you can farm more land. And suddenly, your civilization starts expanding. You've got surplus food. You've got people who don't farm. They're doing other things. You've got administrators. You've got priests. You've got soldiers. You've got artists. And you need a way to keep track of everything. So you invent writing. The earliest writing we know about was from the Sumerians. And you know what it was for? Keeping track of grain shipments. That's it. Writing didn't start because someone wanted to write poetry. It started because someone needed to know how much grain they had and where it was. But once you have writing, you can write anything. You can write laws. You can write stories. You can write down knowledge. And suddenly, knowledge doesn't die when someone dies. It persists. It can be shared. It can be improved. And this is where things really accelerate. You've got this accumulation of knowledge happening over generations. One person invents something. They write it down. Someone else reads it. They improve it. They write down their improvement. Someone else reads that. This cycle repeats. And before you know it, you've gone from how do we farm, to how do we build cities, to how do we understand the stars. Now, let me come back to this idea of the alien observer. If I'm an alien looking at Earth from far away, and I'm trying to understand human development, what am I seeing? I'm seeing about 190,000 years where basically nothing changes. Same hunting and gathering, same small groups, same tools, same songs. Then, suddenly, in the last 10,000 years, which is about 5% of our total history, everything explodes. We go from nomadic to settled. We go from oral traditions to written language. We go from hand tools to machines. We go from small tribes to civilizations with millions of people. We go from no astronomy to landing on the moon, all in 10,000 years. In the grand scheme of human history, that's nothing. That's a blink of an eye. And here's the thing that makes it even more remarkable. Most of this explosion happened in just the last few hundred years. We're talking about the Industrial Revolution, which started about 250 years ago. Before that, even with agriculture and civilization, technology moved slowly. A farmer in 1600 would recognize the tools of a farmer in 1200. The basic structure of life didn't change much. But a farmer in 1800 would be amazed by what a farmer in 1900 could do. And a farmer in 1900 would think a farmer in 2000 was doing magic. And a farmer in 2000 would think a farmer in 2025 is using science fiction technology. Why am I telling you all this? Because I think an alien observer would get this wrong. If they looked at human history from a distance, from a really long time perspective, they'd see these long, flat stretches of nothing much happening. And then suddenly, this vertical line shooting up. And they might think, that's just noise. That's just an anomaly. That's not important. They'd miss the revolution. They'd miss the fundamental transformation of human civilization. But let's think about what's actually happened. In 10,000 years, we went from following herds to flying aircraft. That's not a slow progression. That's an explosion. And it happened so fast that we're not entirely sure what we're doing. We've created technology faster than we've created wisdom. We've got nuclear weapons. We've got the ability to pollute the entire planet. We've got artificial intelligence that might become smarter than us. We've got all these powerful tools, and we haven't entirely figured out how to use them wisely. It's like we gave a 2-year-old a chainsaw and said, "Here, have fun." And the funny thing is, the thing that really gets me, is that we did all this accidentally. Nobody planned it. The people who invented agriculture didn't think, "Oh, this will lead to civilization and science and technology." They just thought, "We need to feed more people." The people who invented writing didn't think, "This will change everything." They thought, "We need to keep track of grain." The people who invented the steam engine didn't think, "This will launch us into a technological revolution." They thought, "How do we pump water out of coal mines more efficiently?" Every single innovation was just someone trying to solve a problem right in front of them. And each solution created new problems, which created new innovations, which created more new problems. It's like a chain reaction that nobody started intentionally, but that nobody can stop. Here's something else that's interesting. The agricultural revolution, and I'm being careful with my words here, might have been a mistake. I know that sounds strange. I know we've been taught that agriculture is the foundation of civilization and therefore a good thing. But think about it from a biological perspective. A hunter-gatherer worked 2 or 3 days a week. They had diverse nutrition. They had leisure time. They made art. They told stories. They spent time with their families. Yes, sometimes they starved if food was scarce. Yes, there was danger from predators and from other groups. But their baseline life was actually pretty good. And then agriculture comes along. Now you work 6 or 7 days a week. Your diet is repetitive and less nutritious. You live in close quarters with lots of people and diseases. You've got warfare because now there's property to fight over and hierarchy to fight about. Your life expectancy doesn't go up. It stays about the same or gets worse. So from a biological perspective, agriculture might not have been a good trade. We traded quality of life for quantity of life. We had more humans alive, but each human was working harder and getting sick more often. But here's what happened after agriculture. And this is important. The population was locked in. Once you've got 1 billion people depending on farming to survive, you can't go back to hunting and gathering. It's biologically impossible. You'd starve. The planet can't support 1 billion hunter-gatherers. So we were trapped. We had to keep going forward. We had to keep innovating, keep improving agriculture, keep expanding civilization, because the alternative was starvation for most of humanity. And this is where the real question comes in. Did we continue to make mistakes? The Industrial Revolution, did that help or hurt? We got machines. We got electricity. We got modern medicine. We got to live longer. But we also got 16-hour workdays in factories. We got pollution. We got the destruction of ecosystems. We got nuclear weapons. We got climate change. We got the ability to turn night into day so we can work all the time. We thought machines would give us free time. But instead, we just work longer hours. The invention of electricity didn't give us rest. It just expanded the hours we could work. Before electricity, the workday ended when the sun went down. After electricity, the workday could be 24 hours. And for a lot of people, it was. Now we're doing it again with AI. We're told that AI will free us from repetitive tasks so we can focus on creative work. But I've heard this before. In 1987, an evolutionary biologist named Jared Diamond wrote an essay called "The Worst Mistake in the History of the Human Race." He was talking about agriculture, and his argument was that agriculture gave us civilization and technology, but at the cost of human freedom and human happiness. And then we made the same choice again with the Industrial Revolution. And now we're making it again with AI. At each step, we're told it will improve our lives. And at each step, it does improve our lives in some ways and makes them worse in other ways. And we can never go back because there's too many of us depending on the system. So why would an alien observer miss this? Why would they not understand the significance of what happened on Earth? I think it's because they'd be looking for steady progress. They'd be looking for a smooth curve going up. But what we have is not smooth at all. We have these sudden jumps. Agriculture was a jump. The invention of writing was a jump. The scientific method was a jump. The Industrial Revolution was a jump. The computer was a jump. Each one of these happened in the course of a few human lifetimes. In the context of evolutionary time, that's instantaneous. But in the context of an alien observation timeline, which might stretch across millions of years, it might look like nothing. Imagine this. An alien species is looking at Earth. They take a measurement 10,000 years ago. Okay, so humanity is here. Population maybe 5 million. They're hunter-gatherers. They've got some art and language and simple tools. Not very impressive. Then they say, let's check back in another 10,000 years. They come back, and it's the year 10,000 CE or something, and humanity has either destroyed itself or it's spread across the galaxy and turned into something unrecognizable. But they made the mistake of not checking the intermediate data. If you only sample data at intervals of 10,000 years, you're going to miss the entire explosion that happened in between. It's like taking a photograph of a sunrise every hour. You get midnight, then midnight again, then sunrise, then sunset. You'd completely miss the beauty of the transition. And this is what I find most fascinating about human history. We did this all in a rush. We compressed what normally takes millions of years of evolution into thousands of years of cultural change. And we did it not by evolving biologically. Our brains haven't gotten bigger in 10,000 years, probably actually smaller if anything. We did it by evolving culturally, by creating systems that store information outside our bodies. Writing, books, computers, by learning to cooperate on larger and larger scales, by building on the knowledge of people who died long ago. This is remarkable. This is genuinely unusual in the universe, as far as we know. And maybe that's what the aliens are missing. They're looking for biological evolution. They're looking for a species that gradually gets smarter and stronger over millions of years. But humans didn't do that. Humans found a shortcut. We created culture. We created technology. We created systems that allow us to accumulate and share knowledge at an enormous rate. And we did this only because we had to. We had to because we backed ourselves into a corner by inventing agriculture. So you could say, in a weird way, the worst mistake in human history, agriculture, is also the thing that made human civilization possible. It's a paradox. Let me put this in perspective one more time. If we think about the history of life on Earth, and that's 3.8 billion years, and we think about human intelligence developing over maybe the last 7 million years, and then we think about civilization developing in the last 10,000 years, then what you're looking at is this. Most of the time, nothing changes. Then in the last 5% of human history, everything changes. And in the last 0.1%, the last 1,000 years, civilization goes absolutely crazy with innovation. Writing, printing, electricity, mechanics, chemistry, physics, computers, the internet. It's all happened in the last 1,000 years. Before that, we had civilization for 9,000 years, but the basic structure didn't change that much. You had kings and peasants. You had agriculture and crafts. You had trade, but you didn't have electricity. You didn't have trains. You didn't have global communication. You didn't have the ability to turn night into day. You didn't have the capacity to destroy the entire planet or save it. So here's my thought about why an alien observer would miss this. Because it's happening so fast. Because it's recent. Because it's still ongoing. You can't really appreciate the significance of what's happening while it's happening. The Industrial Revolution didn't feel revolutionary to someone living in 1850. They just felt like things were changing. Some of it was good, better tools, better medicine. Some of it was bad, worse working conditions, pollution, crowding. But the full significance of what had happened only became clear in retrospect. And we're in a similar situation right now. We've got computers. We've got the internet. We've got artificial intelligence. But we don't know yet what the full significance of these innovations will be. In 100 years, historians might look back at this moment and say, oh, that was the moment when humanity became something different. Or they might say, that was nothing. The real change was something else. We can't know yet because we're too close to it. But I'll tell you what I think is happening. I think humans have created a system, civilization, technology, accumulated knowledge that has its own momentum. We can't stop it even if we wanted to. When agriculture was invented, nobody said, oh, this will lead to the Industrial Revolution in 10,000 years. But it did. When the printing press was invented, nobody said, this will lead to the internet. But it did. When electricity was harnessed, nobody said, this will let us compute and think with machines. But it did. Each innovation created the conditions for the next innovation. And this process is accelerating. We're getting better at creating innovations. We're getting better at sharing them. We're getting better at building on them. And so from an alien perspective, what would they see? They'd see a species that, by all accounts, was biologically stable for hundreds of thousands of years. And then, Over the course of 10,000 years, which is nothing on an evolutionary timescale, it transformed completely. It went from small bands of hunter-gatherers to a global civilization with billions of people, with the ability to manipulate atoms and send signals across the planet at the speed of light and predict the future using mathematics. That's revolution. That's a fundamental transformation of what a species is and what it's capable of. But here's the thing that would probably confuse the aliens the most. We don't really understand it. We understand the parts, the invention of writing, the development of agriculture, the scientific method, the Industrial Revolution. We can describe each of these things. But do we understand how they all fit together? Do we understand why this happened to us specifically? Do we understand whether this is sustainable? Do we understand where we're going? Honestly, I don't think we do. We're making it up as we go along. We're so caught up in the day-to-day problems that we don't have a clear picture of the long-term trajectory. And that might be another reason the aliens would miss this. If you're looking at a civilization and trying to assess what it's doing, you probably look for intentionality. You'd look for planning. You'd look for a long-term strategy. But human civilization doesn't have that. We're more like a river flowing downhill. There's a general direction, but there's no plan. The river doesn't know where it's going. It just flows. And that's what humanity is doing. We're flowing. We're following the momentum of innovation because we can't stop it. We're trying to solve immediate problems without fully understanding the long-term implications. And sometimes we make brilliant decisions, and sometimes we make catastrophic ones. Here's what fascinates me most. The very things that enabled our revolution, agriculture, technology, civilization, are now the things that threaten us the most. Agriculture allowed us to support billions of people, but now we're wondering if the planet can handle it. Technology gave us incredible power, but now we've got nuclear weapons and the ability to permanently damage the climate. Civilization let us accumulate knowledge, but it also created hierarchy and inequality and gave some people power over others. We solved the problem of starvation and created the problem of overproduction. We solved the problem of disease and created the problem of overpopulation. Every solution creates new problems. And I wonder, is this inevitable? Is every intelligent species destined to go through this? To be stable for a very long time, and then suddenly explode into rapid innovation and transformation? Or is this unique to humans? I don't know. But I suspect an alien observer, if they were really paying attention, would understand that what we've done in the last 10,000 years is extremely unusual. We've taken a biological organism with a brain designed to survive in small groups of 20 or 30 people, and we've created a system where billions of people are coordinated through institutions and technology. That's not normal. That's not what evolution usually produces. That's radical. That's strange. That's remarkable. And the fact that we did it so fast, that we compressed what normally takes millions of years into a few thousand, that's the real revolution. That's why an alien observer, if they're not paying attention, would miss it. They'd miss it because it's so fast and so recent that it barely shows up on the timescales they're used to thinking about. They'd look at Earth and say, yeah, humans are interesting. They've got some technology, but nothing that remarkable by cosmic standards. And they'd miss the point entirely. The remarkable thing is not where we are now. The remarkable thing is how fast we got here. The remarkable thing is that we did it at all.